What happens when the U.S. president issues a private warning to China, only to be met with defiance and a towering 125% tariff wall? On April 11, 2025, the Trump administration revealed that it had urged Chinese President Xi Jinping to request a direct call with President Donald Trump to de-escalate tensions, warning Beijing not to retaliate against U.S. tariffs. But U.S. officials woke up to a stark message: no call and a massive new wave of Chinese tariffs. Xi's response wasn't in words, it was in action, with China imposing a 125% tariff on U.S. goods, signaling that this trade war has become deeply personal. Let's break this down in 6 steps, exploring the stakes, the motivations, and what this escalating clash means for global stability. No fluff, just real insights to help you navigate this critical moment. Let's dive in. Chapter 1. A private warning ignored. In the days leading up to April 11, 2025, the Trump administration engaged in behind-the-scenes talks with Chinese officials, delivering a clear message: don't retaliate against U.S. tariffs, and have President Xi Jinping request a direct call with President Trump to resolve the issue. This warning, reported by CNN, was part of a broader U.S. effort to de-escalate a fast-worsening trade war between the world's 2 largest economies. The White House had made it clear for months that Xi should initiate contact, a stance conveyed repeatedly to Beijing, according to sources familiar with the communications. But China ignored the warning. On April 8th, Beijing announced new retaliatory tariffs, pushing duties on U.S. goods to 125%, a staggering escalation from the earlier 34% increase that had already drawn Trump's ire. Xi's refusal to request a call, coupled with this tariff hike, sent a defiant signal to Washington. Posts on X captured the sentiment, with users noting that Xi effectively told Trump to fly a kite, severing the possibility of immediate talks. The move came hours after Trump threatened an additional 50% tariff on Chinese imports if Beijing didn't back down, bringing the total U.S. tariff rate on China to 104% as of April 9th. This tit-for-tat escalation marks a new, personal chapter in the U.S. China trade war. Chapter 2. The trade war turns personal. The U.S. China trade war, reignited under Trump's second term, has taken a deeply personal turn. Trump's initial 10% tariff on Chinese imports in January, followed by a 20% increase in March, was aimed at pressuring Beijing to curb fentanyl flows into the U.S. China responded with targeted tariffs of 10–15% on U.S. goods like crude oil and farm machinery. But the situation escalated dramatically last week. On April 2nd, Trump announced a Liberation Day tariff plan, imposing a 54% total tariff on Chinese goods, 20% from earlier duties, plus a 34% reciprocal tariff to match China's perceived trade abuses, as reported by Reuters. China hit back swiftly, imposing a 34% tariff on U.S. imports on April 8th, bringing its total duties to 125% after Trump's latest escalation, according to CNN. Trump, furious at Beijing's defiance, terminated all scheduled talks with China, posting on Truth Social, "All talks with China concerning their requested meetings with us will be terminated." The Chinese Foreign Ministry accused the U.S. of economic bullying and blackmail, vowing to fight to the end, as reported by the New York Times. Xi's actions, ignoring Trump's call request and raising tariffs, signal a refusal to appear weak, a stance rooted in his image as a national savior rejuvenating China's greatness. Chapter 3. Dun's calculated defiance. Xi Jinping's defiance is a calculated move, driven by both domestic and geopolitical considerations. As noted by experts in an ABC News analysis, Xi is playing hardball to show his people that China can withstand the economic pain of Trump's tariffs and stand up to what Beijing calls America's bullying. Xi has cast himself as a defiant strongman leading a powerful nation, a narrative that leaves little room for concessions that might make him look weak. For Xi, there's a huge amount of risk of looking weak in his dealings with the U.S. Neil Thomas of the Asia Society Policy Institute told ABC News, a phone call with Trump, especially under pressure, could undermine Xi's legitimacy within the Communist Party, where appearing soft on the U.S. is politically untenable. China's state media has reinforced this stance, with the People's Daily asserting that U.S. tariffs will have an impact, but the sky won't fall. Xi's broader agenda is to reduce China's reliance on the U.S., a strategy he's pursued for years by strengthening trade ties with the rest of the world, as noted by the BBC. During Trump's tariff announcement on April 2nd, Xi was symbolically planting trees to highlight deforestation efforts, projecting calmness and signaling to both domestic and global audiences that China is prepared for a prolonged trade battle. Chapter 4. The Global Economic Fallout. The escalating U.S. China trade war is sending shockwaves through global markets. China's 125% tariff on U.S. goods, following Trump's 104% tariff on Chinese imports, threatens to sever trade between the two nations, which exchanged nearly $582 billion in goods last year, according to Politico. Financial markets have slumped dramatically. China's Shanghai Composite Index dropped 7.3% on April 7th, its largest one-day loss since February 2020, while the Dow posted back-to-back losses of over 1,500 points for the first time, as reported by Newsweek. J.P. Morgan has warned that the U.S. faces a significant risk of recession in 2025 due to this market turmoil. Other nations are feeling the ripple effects. Trump's tariffs on Asian economies like Vietnam, 46%, and Cambodia, 49%, disrupt supply chains that had shifted from China to avoid earlier duties, as noted by CNN. The EU, hit with 20% tariffs, is exploring countermeasures while seeking to avoid a full trade war, with leaders like Ursula von der Leyen emphasizing the need for a rules-based trade order, per CNBC. The Bank of England warned of further sharp corrections in markets, highlighting the global economic risks of this escalating conflict.